Hey guys, it's Cal from the Lighting Doctor here. Excited about this project. I'm shooting it from one of my favorite cities in the whole world, definitely in all of Canada, on Vancouver Island in Victoria, BC. So the weather's not great for us, but it's gonna be a fun property. Anytime you get out to these coastal areas, it's great because you get lots of big trees that you can utilize. The arbutus trees are beautiful. There's lots of things. There's obviously some challenges that we're going to face with some rocky areas and stuff, and I'm going to show you guys a bunch of ways that we're not using a bunch of path and area lights. We're going to use a lot of our standard up and accent lights, as well as a few in-ground lights and some down lighting options. So I'll show you how we're going to use those to maximize the effect that we're going to get with those lights. So instead of having a whole whack of path lights, we're going to accent a bunch of different features around our walking areas and our areas where we want to lit and use a lot of the reflective light. We're not overdoing it on this project, which I like. I like starting very subtle and adding lights on down the road. So I'm excited to walk you guys through this project on Vancouver Island. If you have any questions, be sure to send those to me directly below this email. Okay, so guys, I'm just gonna walk you through the steps, how we're gonna go do this. It's the same as every project. Basically what I've done is I've kind of walked around, we've figured out our plan, and all I've done is I've taken all my lights out of the boxes and I'm going and I'm just setting them all around the property so that I can do a proper count and also to figure out my wattage and how big a transformer I'm gonna need. Now, I have most of that already figured out, but I always want to double check because I just walked around with the homeowner and we said, you know what, we're gonna add a light here, we're gonna add a light here, we're gonna take one out here, we're gonna take one out there. So now I just want to go get them all out there so I know exactly what I'm dealing with. Now I can figure out my total wattage and I can go and calculate what size transformer I need, and I can go and get those in place. I'm gonna go place those by the GFCI receptacles that I need, so that once I've got all my lights placed, which is the next step, I'm gonna go and actually take my little shovel, my mallet, I'm gonna go place those lights where I think they're gonna look best. Then the next step after that is I'm gonna run out all my wire back to the transformer, so I kind of have a path of where it's going, how much wire I'm gonna need, and again, to make sure I can size that transformer properly. From there, once I've got all my lights, all my wire laid out, that's when I go and I start hooking everything up, and I'm gonna go start wiring all my lights in. And then from there, I'm gonna set up my transformer, I'm gonna plug it in, I'm gonna wire them in, and I'm gonna make sure all the lights are working before I go and bury anything. And then the last step after I come back tonight, because that's one thing that any good landscape lighting designer, especially if it's your first time, you're kind of do-it-yourself guy, you wanna come back at night before you finalize everything and just make sure all your lights are in the right position and pointed where you need them to. That's why we always leave a little extra wire at every single light, so that if you need to move it 6 feet here, 2 inches here, or whatever it might be, you have that extra room. So before you bury anything, go and test those lights, flick on your transformer, make sure they're working, come back at night, and then once you've got everything exactly where you want it, that's where the final step is. You come back, you bury all your wires. So that's the stages we're at right now. So I'm gonna go and get all those lights placed, and I'll show you guys some more details from there. Hey guys, I'm just going to show you an area, an example where we would use an in-ground light. So we have these nice stone columns coming into the driveway area of this house, and sorry it's a little loud, it's a little windy, we're right by the roadway here, but bear with me. But entryways of driveways, entryways of the homes, you always want to try and feature those, especially, and typically you have some nice features like some stone pillars or something around the house, some nice columns or beams or something. You always want to try and get a light on that. So for this example, we're using our in-ground light. Reason being is because this is kind of a rock driveway area. I don't want to use a typical uplight and accent light, which basically gets you the same effect. The difference is I want the light source to start right at the ground, right at the base, and I don't want to have to worry about anybody from the street or any vehicles or anything knocking this over or hitting it or anything like that. So we're going to put this right in the ground. I've got it not too far back from the pillar. I've got it maybe, we'll call it 12 to 18 inches back of the pillar. It's going to be shining straight up. We're going to get this pillar as well as a lot of the foliage and the trees that are above. So these in-ground and accent lights, We don't use them all the time because they are a little bit more costly, a little bit more maintenance to keep clean, especially if you're in a leafy area. But in some cases, it's a great light to use, and that's where we're going to use it on this property. Hey guys, so like I talk about in all my videos, the first step is I'm just going to go place the lights. I've laid them out around the property. Now I just want to dig them in and get them set so that I can come around and wire them. So how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to select my positioning, roughly where I want that light. I'm going to dig a small hole, but I want it to be big enough that I can fit extra wire in. Like I said, when I come back at night, I might want to move this by a foot or two. So I want to have enough extra wire to do that. So I'm going to dig a hole big enough for that. I'm going to take my ground stake, place that in the ground, and then I'm just going to hammer it in with my rubber mallet. Just because I want to give it a little bit more security and keep it nice and stable. So I always do that, and that's all I'm doing at this stage. I'm just going to place them, get them secure so I can come around and wire them all up. And that's the first step. Hey guys, so I just want to show you, we're going to use our accent light a whole bunch in this property. And a lot of common areas we're going to use that is on some nice trees. We got a really nice tree here that we're going to try and focus on. But one thing I see people do too often, or more times than not, is instead of trying to get that light nice and close to the tree and having it shine up, so you're taking advantage of all the barking structure and then all the branching up top, is they'll bring it far back and try and aim it at the tree. And what happens there is they tend to miss a lot of the lower portions of the trees. And then also when it, you know, depending on the area you live in, if you start losing a lot of foliage in the wintertime, then having that light shine at all the foliage is kind of a waste of time, and you lose a lot of the effect of that light. That's why I like having it closer to the tree. You know, here we're maybe 12, 14, 18 inches away from the base. We're going to have it shooting almost straight up because I want to highlight all this trunking and branching structure as possible, as well as now we're getting that light up into the foliage and into the canopy. So again, with our standard RS uplight from FX LUMINAIRE, there's lots of other good ones out there. I like this guy because it's a real workhorse, and that's what we're going to use on this project. Hey guys, I'll go into a little bit more detail about these DVRY connectors in a bit, but basically I always get asked if I need to tee into a line. So for example, I've got a line coming in, I've got a line going out, and then I've got another line that has to go out here. How can I go about doing that? So that's where we're going to use these DVRY connectors. The reason we use these is because they're bigger, so we can fit more wires in them. So we can fit our wire going out, we can fit our wire that just came in, and then we can send another wire out that way. And my one tip that I'll want to point out is that I always try and do this somewhere where there's like a fixture or something. So that way, if there ever is a break or connection that I gotta go check, I know where it is. It's located at a fixture. It's somewhere where there's already a hole as opposed to just some random spot in the yard. So just a quick tip, when you're teeing into the line, try and do it somewhere where you know you already have a splice and you can easily access it later. Hey guys, so I'm going to try and show you a little wiring tip here, because this is a question I get all the time, and guys will hook up all their lights and they get to the light and everything's working, and they hook up their last light and all of a sudden it's not working. And it's typically because that last fixture on the line seems to tends to give people some confusion. I can't even say it. So we're getting poured on here, but I'm going to show you the last fixture on the line here and how we're going to go and wire that. And if you want a better definition and diagram, go to YouTube, search Lighting Doctor wiring diagram, and I give you a really thorough example of this. But so I've got my last fixture right here, and I've got my two wires that come off of that fixture, right? And then I've got my 12-2 wire that is coming to the last fixture. So I don't have another wire going to another one. This is it. This is the end. So what most people do is they just end up using one connector and putting all the wires in, and then it shorts everything. So, but that's not how you do it. Even on this last fixture, you still need two of your connectors. So what you're gonna do, again, you're gonna have your 12-2 wire and you're gonna split that, and you're gonna take one of those wires and you're gonna throw it in the big port on your BBS2 connectors, and then you're gonna take one wire from your actual fixture and you're gonna put it in one of the small ports on that same connector. So you're gonna have, on the last fixture, you're gonna have one extra hole for wire. You don't need to use that. You've only got 2 wires coming in. And then you need to do that one more time because you still have another wire to from your fixture, and you still have another wire, another 12-2 wire coming in. So same thing. You're gonna throw that 12-2 wire in the big port, and you are gonna throw that small wire in the smaller port for your fixture, and then still at that last light, you still have the 2 connections. The only difference with this and one in line is one in line, that extra hole is gonna have the 12-2 wire that goes out to your next light on both of these, right? Because this is our last fixture, you have that hole empty. So I like using these BBS2 snap lock connectors. I also like using these DBRY connectors, which I talked a lot about, with same idea, except the only difference is the wires just screw into this moret, and this moret slides into this waterproofing tube. So it doesn't matter what you use, the big 2 things to keep in mind is, one, some type of waterproofing. It's got to be gel filled of some sort. Those connectors that you buy at Home Depot, places like that, that pierce the wire, stay away from those. If they have those connectors built right onto the fixture and you still want to use that fixture, cut them off and use a proper one that's got some kind of sealant in it to make that a waterproof connection, or I promise you, you'll be digging up that connection. And the other thing is something that has a mechanical connection. So what that means is something that will hold the wires from being pulled apart. These ones I like because they snap tight, and once the wires are in there, they don't come out. Same with these. Once you got the wires in there in these big gel-filled tubes and you snap this shut, you're not pulling the wires out of that. So some people will just use those gel-filled morets, which is fine. They have that waterproofing, but then you got to wrap them with tape or zip tie the wires together. Do something so you can't pull those wires together, or again, I promise you, you're going to be digging up down the road. So there's all kinds of other wire connectors that are out there, but they need those 2 components: waterproofing and that mechanical connection to keep those wires from coming apart. So hope that helps, and we'll move on to the next step after this. Hey guys, just one more quick tip here. So we've ran all our wire to all our lights, but something I always talk about is leaving lots of extra wire. Even though I think this is where we're gonna have this light tonight, when I come back at night, we might wanna move it 2-3 feet that way, or 4 feet this way, or whatever. I've got 10 feet of extra wire around this, and that's standard what comes on this fixture. So you don't need that much, but even 2-3 extra feet of wire so that you have a little bit of play. And then also, if later down the road, because this is our last light on the line, say we wanted to add some more lights down the road there, well, I have a whole bunch of extra wire that I can tap into, and I can keep my run going, assuming I have the right transformer and all that kind of stuff, which I'll talk about in a bit. But extra wire, extra wire, extra wire. It doesn't cost that much in relation to how much of a headache it's going to be if you don't leave it. So leave extra wire at every fixture, and even some spots along the way is going to save you a whole bunch of headaches if you ever have any ambitions of expanding. Hey guys, so on this project we're going to be mounting a lot of lights up in the trees and kind of downlighting, getting those lights up nice and high, 20-25 feet up there, shining through the branches, so we can kind of create some shadowing down on the ground here. So the thing with that is the wire for the fixtures we have is only it's only about 10 feet long, so I don't want to have a big waterproof connector hanging halfway down the trees. One thing you can do if that's something you have is just go buy a junction box at you know, the Home Depot store or Lowe's or whatever it is, and just put that connection in one of those, just so you don't have to look at it. At least it hides it. Another option that we often use is these shrink wrap connectors. Again, you can get them at any home improvement store. What I like about them is they are gel filled here, so once they get, sorry, I got a bee on me here. but they are gel filled, so once they heat up, the gel actually seals around the connection, and they're very inconspicuous, so that's why I like using them. So we're going to use them for this. So I've got my wire to my fixture, so I want to make that a lot longer, and then I can make my connections down in the ground and stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to I've got my wires, I'm just going to slide my tube on, because you need to get your tube on the wires first. So we got that on, and one thing I do is I cut, if you can see here, I cut one of them a little bit shorter than the other, and I'll show you why I do that. It's basically so I can cheat and just use one of these as opposed to having to use two, which same as any of the connections, usually you have to make two for each fixture because you have two wires, but we're going to cheat a little bit and I'll show you how. So basically what I've done is with my wire that's going out into the ground and my fixture wire, I have one longer and one shorter. So I'm going to take the longer one and I'm going to connect it with the shorter one. And I'm actually just going to twist tie those up, just twist them together nice and good, and then I'm going to just bend one of them so it kind of looks like this, right? I don't know if you can see that. So I've got it like this, and I've just got it bent, and then I'm going to twist the other two together, and I'll show you in a second why I do that. And then we're going to twist that, is so that I can go now and I can bend these like this, and the connections aren't going to be touching each other. See how they're separated? So they're not going to be touching each other inside the same shrink wrap connector. They're both in there, they're not touching. Something else you can do just to make sure is sometimes I'll put some electrical tape just around those, just to make sure those connections don't touch, and then I'll go and I will shrink wrap that together. So how you do that is very simple, is you just need a torch of some kind, and then you just lightly warm that up, and you watch it shrink. You're going to be careful not to get too close and burn anything. Make sure all the wires are still inside. It's pretty hot afterwards, so give it a good little I just try and seal it up a bit, but you can see the ooze is kind of coming out a little bit, so it's all waterproofed in there, and once it solidifies, it's pretty hard and you are not pulling those wires apart. So if you're doing any tree lighting or need to hide some wire and extend it and make a pretty inconspicuous connection, shrink wrap connectors is a really good way to go. Hey guys, now I'm going to show you some tree lighting examples and how we do that. Now I'm going to do it down low here. I've got my ladder, I'm going to go put it up in the tree, but it's tough to get my camera up there, so this is how we do it. We do it with these tree mount stakes, and the reason I like these is they're no maintenance. Sometimes you'll see people will mount lights to trees just using like a regular bracket, but what happens is as that tree grows, eventually it grows right over that bracket, right over the wire and all that. So I'm going to show you how to do this properly so that you don't have to worry about that. It's with these tree stakes. Super easy. See, the light screws actually into the top of here, and then this screws into our tree. So basically what I do is I just get it started with the hammer, get it in there a little bit, and then you can just use any screwdriver or anything. There's a little hole here, and you can just tighten that on. Keep spinning until you get it all the way in there. And the nice thing about that is now as the tree grows, it's easy to go and back that off. So as the tree starts getting wider and starts getting closer to the end, all you have to go do is do the opposite now, and you can just slowly back that off a little bit. So that's why I like that. Once you got it in there, pretty simple. Then your fixture is just a 1/2 inch thread, just pops in there and screws in. Now I don't have this all the way in, so it's not going to be super steady, but it'll give you the right idea. And then you just make your adjustments, shine it down. One thing I will say is anytime you're doing downlighting, something you do want to do is get one of these hex baffles. I don't know if you can see this little honeycomb. Sorry, this bee's bugging me here. This little honeycomb shaped filter. Basically what that does is this goes underneath the lens, and then now when that's shining down, it helps deflect the glare, because especially with downlights that are shining down, if you walk right under it or kind of in the proximity of it, sometimes it's shining right in your eye. What this does, it helps deflect that a little bit, so it's not as bright in your eye. And then lastly, the other question I get is how do you go and secure the wire to the tree? Because you can leave it just dangling like this, which is great, but then it, you know, it's visible and people don't always like that. So how you can go secure that is actually just use these zip ties with screw holes in it. Again, another reason that we use those is because it's easy to go and back that screw off as that tree grows bigger. Because so many times I see people who just screw the wire or staple it to the tree or something, and then within a year or two you can't find that wire anymore because the tree's grown right over it. Well, this eliminates that, and basically all you do now is you go and you screw that zip tie to the tree, and then you can go now put the zip tie around the wire, and then you can secure it to the tree. But what it does too is not only does it keep it from the tree growing around it, but as that tree grows, now the wire has some play so it can grow with it. So at the base, anytime you do tree lighting, you want to leave a little bit of wire coiled up and buried so that tree can grow, and you just keep pulling that wire up. And if you need to, over time, you can back this off. That's how you keep lights in trees for a long, long time. And with the lights that we use, they're designed for that. They're not designed to only be up there for 3 to 5 years. They're designed to be up there for as long as you want them to. So that's how you go properly mount a light in a tree to get that cool downlighting effect we talk about all the time. Hey guys, so we've pretty much wrapped up our project. I hope you guys have enjoyed that and found these videos helpful. And again, landscape lighting is not that tough. I think anybody can do it. There's just a couple simple steps. I mean, obviously, get your design, figure out what you want. If you need help with that, that's why we do our free consultations. Just email me some pictures and I can help you find out what's gonna work best on your property. We have our try it before you buy a light, where basically you can buy 1 or 2 fixtures, go plug them into a battery pack, walk around the property and see what's gonna look good. So that's another tool to help you come up with the design. Once you got the design, you got your lights, then you just go and you set them around the property, go and place them, start placing them, get a rubber mallet, do that, run your wire, leave extra wire as much as possible, because you never know when you're gonna make mistakes or wanna add on down the road. Go and make your wiring connections. Just be sure you have those 2 properties that we talked about, waterproofing and that mechanical connection, so they don't pull apart. Once you got them wired, go and set up your transformer, hook everything up, and go and test those lights. Fire it on, make sure they're all working before you go and bury everything. And my suggestion, especially if you haven't done this before, is come back that first night before you go and bury everything. Make sure you have all the lights where you want them placed. Make sure you're getting the look that you want, and once you do that, then come back the next day, bury all your wire. There's all kinds of other videos that we have on YouTube for how to bury the landscape lighting wire, how to tunnel under sidewalks, and so much more. If you have any questions about how to install your own landscape lighting, just go to YouTube and search lighting doctor, how to, whatever, and I guarantee you'll find it. So I hope you guys find that helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to get your free consultation and send me your pictures at cal@lightingdoctor.ca.